Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to look at the commodities daily technical analysis. We're going to go through the DXY, the dollar, the 10, 30-year yield, precious metals, and then all the commodities that I follow. I'm going to give you my financial opinion, and we're going to dive in first with the DXY. So here we go. The DXY getting a little bit of a bounce today, 0.34%. It's holding steady, just moving sideways. We still have a lot of momentum, selling pressure momentum heading lower. And like I said before, with that wick at the bottom, this candlestick here, which is a bullish engulfing, not a bullish engulfing, it's a hammer pattern. That is a wick at the bottom, little hammer pattern to go higher. But there's no buying pressure. Where's the buying pressure here? There isn't much of a bounce yet to be seen. It doesn't mean it can't bounce. We're contracted down. The buyers equal the sellers. If the buyers are going to make a move, they would make a move here to try to bounce this thing up. Then we would probably roll over, given all that momentum, and head lower. So I'm still in the lower camp of the DXY. Short term, though, we'll see which way this thing bounces. It's not really going to mean much to me. I'm not trading anything in and out. I'm a long-term investor looking for entry points. And I think the dollar, the DXY, at least the relative strength, will work its way lower over time. The 10-year yield getting a little bit more bounce into its step today, 2.28%. We've got the broken uptrend line. And are we seeing any sort of pattern here? It's tough to say, guys. I don't know if this is a falling wedge or anything like that. We got to see a break. But right now, stronger today. And we've broken that uptrend line. We do have a high and then a lower high here. We do have that as well. And we've broken out the downside there. So I would say, maybe we bounce up here and it starts to roll over again. In the short term, though, it looks like the 10-year yield wants to go lower. TLT bond prices going a little bit lower with those higher yields. Down 1% on the price. But this still, to me, looks like a broken downtrend and a move that wants to work its way higher. The TYX, which is the 30-year yield, it was up today, but overall the momentum definitely looks like it wants to go lower. Is this a Batman top? Where do you get the Batman top? And then the move lower? It's possible. And then we've got the TYX to TNX ratio. What this is stating is that the curve is inverting with TYX, TNX. And that's usually not good for gold or precious metals when it inverts. Gold likes this when it goes up this way. That's good for gold, good for precious metals. That's the curve uninverting. Think of it that way. When the curve inverts, it still means that there's inflationary pressures in the mix. I do think that inflationary pressures are still present. And I know that we saw a lower read on the consumer price index for the CPI number. But I'm curious to see what oil does. And I know we saw a large down day in oil, and we'll take a look at it. But I'm curious to see what that does here this winter. CRB index lower today. I mean, obviously, oil was lower. Are we going to do a return move back here before heading higher? Or are we going to break to the downside and this is just one big false breakout to the upside? Again, I'm in the camp that we're going to go higher and this is a return move of a breakout. What that's going to require is oil to go higher, which means, and we'll take a look at the oil chart, but this is a bullish formation. We've broken to the upside here. We can do a retest move and then we go upward. The CRB to S&P 500, it's still trading in this channel back and forth. Not really much to report there. Big picture view, that's what it looks like. Could we break lower and come back to some level before heading up? That very well could happen. That very well could happen. And, I know everybody wants, they want somebody to tell them what's going to do and have them be accurate. But in the short term, guys, it can move all over the place. The big trend is broken to the upside, the new paradigm where commodities will outperform. But getting every single little movement correct in the short term is going to be impossible. So what I do, what I've learned over all the years is don't worry about the short term as much. Nail the long term, get the big money. That's where I'm at. If we pull back, which is very well possible, and I can show you something with oil, then I think we'll roll higher after, we'll say, the short-term pullback were to occur, if it were to occur. We had stronger dollar today, a little bit stronger yields. We had a little bit of a pullback in gold, but I still think gold looks excellent for a move higher. We're back above this support level. We came back and basically did a little retest. Now let's see what happens. Let's see if we get the upward movement. Silver getting a little bit larger sell-off today. We do have a little bit of a wick at the bottom. Buyers came in, bought up a little bit. It's not a huge wick. I wouldn't say it's a hammer candlestick or anything like that. But gold looks good. Silver looking all right. Wouldn't say it looks great. And then platinum getting a little bit more selling pressure. Maybe it's got a little bit further to fall before we head back on up. Again, market conditions, stronger dollar today and a little bit stronger yields, and precious metals don't like that as much. XAU to gold ratio, we're back to that support level, right on support. It is holding at this time. GDX, a little bit lower today. There was our bearish engulfing where I said we could go lower a little bit. Now we just have to see when we're going to turn. SILJ also going lower, bearish engulfing there. We're headed lower. We're back doing a retest move. So let's see if we can get some support here and head higher with gold and some of the mining companies. Now, crude oil got hit today, and perhaps we're doing kind of like a double bottom where we come up, do a double bottom, and then head higher. If we look at the big long-term, big picture view, there's a couple things that we can look at here. Number one is we did break out of this lower trend line to the downside. We are consolidating, that is for sure. But we have a massive, strong support level in the 75 range. We could come back and tag this 75 range before popping higher. We are above the support level, but we could tag it. And we tagged it basically right here. We came back up, broke through the downtrend, and we're still chopping sideways. We could come all the way back to 77, 76, 75 before a move on up. That is a possibility. Natural gas is still looking pretty strong. We've broken out of our little consolidation pattern here sideways to the upside. Again, I'm not so concerned about the short-term movements in this. What I like is this big picture view. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Jesse Livermore cylinder that has occurred here. So that looks good for a potential move on up for natural gas. Crude oil, it's just lagging a little bit. And let's talk a little bit about the companies themselves too. The companies themselves, XOP, yeah, you know me, it's looking strong. Very confusing. We've got this strong down movement in crude oil. Natural gas was higher. But XOP refuses to fall. It is being very resilient in the face of crude weakness. It makes me think that people are positioning in the oil and gas exploration production companies usually they position before a big move. So is crude oil, is this a fake out in the crude oil price going down 4.5% today? And people are positioning in XOP and energy service companies and stuff like that? We'll find out here, guys. We'll find out. OIH is also being extremely resilient in the face of selling pressure in crude. It gapped lower and then went up throughout the day in buying pressure. People were buying it up. So that was interesting. Very interesting there. Are we going to head higher with crude oil? And is XOP and OIH leading indicators? And is that strength and people positioning in the companies before the move higher in crude? We'll find out here. Uranium futures pricing still moving sideways. Looking at the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, we do have that break lower. Could we come back to that support level at 1340 or so? I can kind of move this up and down. If you go off the closing prices, it's 1340 or so. You go off kind of where the wicks are at, and it's a little bit lower, around $13-ish. So are we going to head lower here in the short term? It's possible. We had a pretty big break. We could come back up and roll over a little bit. But I still think this looks good from a big long-term perspective. Looking here, where we could head a little bit lower in the short term. Maybe we come back down. We'll come back up and try to do it again. We've got the strong resistance line that we have not broken that needs to break above this resistance line at about 18.15. We want to close above that line. But right now, we are getting some selling pressure, and we could head back lower a little bit. Uranium still squeezing on up. We're squeezing up between the trend line that's on the bottom here and a resistance line that's right above it at about 71.50. We're squeezing between 64 and 71.50. We'll see which way we break. Looking at tan still looks ultra strong. We've got it bullish engulfing. Higher. Higher is what that looks like. If we back out, still looks ultra bullish from this perspective to go higher for tan. So solar looks pretty solid. COPX, looking at copper, we're bouncing off that support level. Today, we're coming back and bouncing off that support level today. I still think it looks all right, at least from the charts here. Still looks good. Lithium, this is an ugly chart. There's no real structure to this thing. It's just bouncing back and forth. You could say that there's a good support level at about $63, but it's just bouncing all over the place. REMX, that one's bouncing off its support level. That's that big support level, the blue line there. We're just chopping sideways. And again, we were down a little bit today. S&P 500 down a little bit. We're just meandering lower between this megaphone, I should say slanted lower megaphone pattern. Same with the NASDAQ. I don't really have too much to say here. We're just moving, kind of meandering around here. We're not at resistance. We're not at support. We're kind of just moving sideways. Emerging markets moving sideways. I think this looks bullish still. We're doing that back test. So we broke out, doing a little back test, and I think we could go higher with the dollar going lower. Dollar was higher today, and it held its ground. XHB, this to me looks like a double bottom. You kind of come in sideways, and then you knock out your double bottom here. It may get stuck at this general vicinity. We've got lots of trading, basically right where it's at. But that's what it looks like to me as a double bottom. We have a downtrend line break, which is this guy here. We broke that. Now we're doing our double bottom. Moo, also doing the double bottom thing. You can see the double bottom here. We're right above support, right on top of it. Copper doing a retest out of its breakout. So we broke out, doing a retest. And then usually when you get back to do that retest, we move higher. So it still looks all right. Lumber, still getting a little bit of life left in it. 2.5% up. Still looks good. We've broken out of all this pattern here. We're doing a retest, and now we're starting to head higher. Iron ore. This thing is still inside this falling wedge. It's a big falling wedge, and I still think that we could potentially head lower and hit and retest this bottom, maybe a little double bottom or something like that. Aluminum chopping sideways. Again, right above support. Still looks good. Baltic Dry Index, very small down day, still within this, a small week, I should say, down small week, and still in the falling wedge. Falling wedges break to the upside. So still bullish. Newcastle coal futures just moving sideways on this week. We are down today 2.5%. There is a lot of momentum in this move down here. And I think we'll do some bouncing before going anywhere, if it's trying to put in a bottom. Ethereum down a little bit. I actually think this still looks really good for a potential bottoming process. It's going to take some time, but large up candlestick, small selling pressure, that's usually a good thing. And then Bitcoin's also doing the same thing. It's just kind of working its way down where the buyers equal the sellers. You get some sort of pattern. Could this be an inverted one where we break to the downside? That is still possible. Yes, it is. Where it's a continuation pattern to the downside. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not playing any of this in the crypto space. I'm just letting you guys know what's out there. So that's what I've got for today. I want to know in the comment section what you guys think on oil. It's confusing. We've got inventories that continue to drag down. I don't know if we really even pulled back on production from OPEC. They just lowered what their quotas were. So they didn't really do anything. And I mean, that's kind of a little weird thing too. So we're coming up to pumping capacity. We're eating through our inventories and oil is going lower, although we see positioning in XOP and OIH in some of these companies. The companies, yeah, they were down, but they were coming up back throughout the day. They were showing strength. So a little bit interesting there. Maybe we tag $75 one last time or something like that, or $76 a barrel. It's highly possible. Uranium still kind of chopping all over the place. Sput's looking kind of weak. I will admit that. URNM is still holding strong. And a lot of the other companies, they're at the tops of their patterns, ready to break to the upside if uranium decides to break higher. A lot of the other areas, it looks like we've broken to the upside and we're doing retests. So I still think they look pretty good. But time will tell, guys. And maybe I'll talk about some other things coming up. That's right. We've got a 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, Sunday, Platinum question and answer session. So if you want to come to that, you can ask questions there, specific questions. I'll try to answer whatever I can and give you my opinions. If you guys like the content, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And we'll catch you guys next time. This is Finding Value.